Hey everyone, Mr. Happy here, and welcome to Mondays with Mr. Happy, aka Mr. Happy Mondays, a weekly Q&A show where you ask me questions and I answer them. I got a little bit of a busy evening ahead of me. Going to be taking on some pork belly as a challenge for another one of my cooking adventures that we've been posting over on social. If you want to see all that, definitely follow me on Twitter and Instagram because you will see lots of food and, as of late, lots of Pokemon Snap pictures as well. Played quite a bit of that since it came out. Still working my way through the 100% completion, which is going to take quite some time to actually do. On top of that, we've been playing a bunch of Monster Hunter Rise. New update actually came out. We've been keeping up on Genshin. Patch 1.5 just came out. And so I've been pretty busy this last week. And we still have a couple of weeks until FanFest. And when that comes around, whew, we are going to be very, very busy. We have some other things coming on the channel this week. Should be early in the week, actually. So keep an eye out for some surprises, I suppose. With that, let's get on into the Q&A because these have actually been lasting longer than I expected them to. Thank you to our sponsors over on Patreon for supporting, despite the fact that there's not really much a reason to support over there. I mean, you get to enjoy the content all the same here, so it's just if you like it, that's where you are. And that's really it. That's all there is to that one. Also, we have a name in case I forget to add it because I'm so bad at remembering this. Jules, a new standard sponsor over on Patreon. So thank you to you. Appreciate that, and thank you to all the names on that list. Of course, our Patrons of Darkness, Khuja Cross on Jenova, and Kurenai Oni as well. Thank you to them. They've gone above and beyond. And thank you to all of you for tuning in to this weekly Q&A. With that, let's check out the questions. All right, question number one, hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hi, hey, how you doing? I'm doing good. You doing good? I'm doing good. You're doing good. Hopefully the coffee's still nice and hot. Yeah, I took a while to drink mine today, so it actually is still quite plentiful in the cup, more so than it normally is. For a long-time watcher, listener, first-time asker. All right, let's see what you got. Do you have any weird or crazy predictions for Endwalker or something you would like to see during 6.0? Like, I'm almost 99% sure we'll see a CG ending, as with every Final Fantasy before, and they really set us up for Estinian and Alcé to become best buddies by the end of it. Or to give them a death flag, one of the two. So, I don't think I do, because Final Fantasy XIV is so formulaic that I guess I never hold them to an outside of formula prediction because it's just unrealistic based on years of experience. I think those kind of things can be fun. Like, I don't think what you've suggested here is wild or crazy at all. I think it's almost a logical thing to have guessed. But it wouldn't have been something I guessed because it's just something we've only had once before in terms of actual, like, in-game cinematic or specifically a CG type of scene. That'd be really cool though, now that you mentioned it. Now that it's on my mind, now I'm kind of hoping for it. No, I don't really have anything too crazy. I'm more thinking about after 6.0. Like, I'm going to take in 6.0. I'm hopefully going to really enjoy it. Story, raid, all that cool. But I'm thinking about 6.1 and on. How that actually ends up looking, because 2.1 through 2.5, you know, everyone agrees, kind of that rough setting of the foundation where nothing's paying off and it's just a bunch of dialogue and text that don't seem to have any rhyme or reason because they don't really know 100% what they're going to do with it yet. And I'm worried about that for 6.1 to 6.5. So that's really my principal, like, thing I'm thinking about. So no crazy predictions for me, unfortunately. This is a short one. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey, hope you're doing all right. Hope the same for you. No, you said I. I'm doing all right. You doing all right? I'm doing all right. If you could simplify each MSQ of the 14 expansions, how would you describe them? Little boy can't run an army. Dragons and people don't get along. Three-way war, and I'm in another world. What is this? There. That's what I tried to do it as quickly as possible without thinking about it too much. So that's what I got. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hi. Hey. Everyone have a bonus or butcher's block. We need that in our life. I agree. Since you have changed your approach to content, will series like Bestiary ever come back, or is that a relic of the past? I always do look at that series and think, yeah, you know, that's... I don't really like the idea of just reading from a wiki or doing anything. So I feel like revisiting that needs to be a little bit more about injecting experience with it, as opposed to just a history of the monster or creation itself. I think specifically with the Final Fantasy XIV fan base, just that game, a lot of people haven't played other Final Fantasies, so it is interesting and informative to people to know what the references are. And maybe that's the approach we look towards in the future, instead of focusing on a bestiary that's entirely about that Final Fantasy creature, looking instead to specifically inform Final Fantasy XIV players. It achieves essentially the same thing, but it's a better foundation to lay on, because we can start with something that's a little bit more personalized, a little bit less, taken right off a wiki page again. So that's a series that I'll always say has a possibility of getting a new episode once in a while, but is not, how do I say, it's not being primed for one, I guess. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey Haps, hope you're doing well. Smiley face. I hope you're doing well too. Smiley face. Just a quick question this week. Did you know that the cockpits of the G-Warrior and the weapons are exactly the same? Go back and watch the pre-Sapphire cutscene if you don't believe me. They're not. So they're relatively the same. One of the big differences between the two is that the cockpit that is inside of the weapons is, how should I describe it? It's more straightforward. Because it's not meant to have any sort of support structures in place. There's not a lot of space wasted on, monitors or communications or things like that. The general cockpit itself is at least relatively similar. I mean, it's that sphere with, the controls in the dead center. It's a hollowed out interior, essentially, in terms of visuals. Or I think it uses, I don't remember if they ever described, because you can't actually see to the outside, but I think it uses not cameras, but like, it reads the ether in the area or something along those lines. I don't remember exactly how it works. But there's some key differences between the two. If you see them both side by side, especially because the majority of the scenes we see people in the cockpit, they're actually just showing it when it's our enemies as this like grayish outline. They like completely forego the details that the pilot themselves would be seeing. Whereas when we're in our cockpit, we can actively see ourselves like falling. If you look in the back, looking at the Sapphire weapon one. So they're similar enough, but they are fairly different. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey, Haps, how you doing? You doing all right? I'm doing all right. You doing all right? I'm doing all right. In reference to the visual only slot for armor and stuff, yeah, that was a question from last week. What do you think about the idea of having things like hairstyles, visual when you examine another player that you could try on the hairstyle? That would require the hairstyles to work for everyone. Because otherwise, that doesn't work all so great. No, that's what you're asking for there is never going to happen. The try-on system is very, very specifically designed to work with gear, and all the visuals of a player are not segmented enough to be able to look at any one of them individually. They're all part of a collective, I suppose is the best way to put it. So the amount of retooling, the amount of workarounds you need to create just to do that, not very likely. I do think that they should have a way of previewing them in games somehow, even if it's just looking at them and being unable to try them on, or, again, going out of their way and making a whole huge system. But to see another player and try it on, that's a lot of technical mumbo jumbo that gets between the idea and the reality of that. So that's probably never going to happen. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hello, hi, I hope you're doing well, and good luck on the Gillionaire show. Yeah, great, because I always look so smart on all the other shows when I have to do, yeah, that's going to be great. Finally about to reach rank 15, hello and thank you, by the way. I'm finally about to reach rank 15 in Bojan and unlock Savage, Delubrum Savage, so I wanted to ask how hard it is to learn compared to EX Trials and Savage 8-Man. I'd say it's about the difficulty of an Extreme Trial, but with 48 people. There's a couple of mechanics and a couple of spots in certain bosses that come off as Savage-esque, but they never really cross all the way into that threshold. It's really more of a, when people screw this up, I mean, when you make a mistake in there and you die, you stand out. That's the biggest thing, because everyone's goal there is very much to not die. So I'd say they're about the same learning process as an Extreme Trial, and as long as you can approach that, shouldn't be a problem. It's also going to get a lot easier in the next few weeks once people get to rank 25 and start getting whatever the new stuff is that's going to make this a whole lot easier, as Yoshi P's been putting it. So it's also, it's not BA easy, but it won't be that bad from that point on. You are going to have to know what you're doing and not die, though. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hi, Mr. Happy. Hope your day is going all good so far. It is. It's been a fantastic day. I got 2 Goss Harag Biles after fucking 3 hours of doing Goss Harag and Monster Hunter. I hate that thing so much. And Mel found pork belly, so I get to cook that after this. So what are your thoughts about having each class getting an awakening like Black Desert? No. I'm just going to say no. I think actually I had a question like this last week or the week before. They don't even want to have class to job advancement. They're never going to do another advancement again. And I know people get upset when I speak in absolutes like that because I'm not a dev. How could I know that? And you're right, I don't. And if I'm wrong, absolutely cool. I get to look like an idiot. That's on me, but they've made it very clear they don't even like that Summoner and Scholar come off of Arcanist. And that if they could, they would get rid of classes. It's a bit of a lore problem, and quite frankly, it's a bit of a programming problem, but they've openly stated they would like to get rid of them because it's pointless. Same could be said about Awakenings. Now, BDO is a little different. New weapons, new sets of abilities. But then what do they do with the old ones? Now the old ones are just worthless. Like they either have to give, like, for example, a warrior a sword and a shield and a paladin an axe because they can't get rid of the weapon slot. The weapon slot is so innately tied to a job and how, I mean, you literally, that's what equips a class is the weapon, and then the crystal equips the job. And then in case of the more recent jobs, or all of them since Heavensward, just you end up having both of them on at the same time. It's just not going to happen. You'd sooner see a complete rework of a class, then I wouldn't even change the weapon type, than you would ever see any sort of advancement that changes such a systematic thing, especially with the way the game is built. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. I like that. Hey, Aya. All right, hi. Hope you're doing well. Hope the same for you. The question is in relation to crit and direct hit and the large effect it has on high potency skills. Oh, it has an effect on a lot of skills. Trust me. Feels great, but when you don't get them, you end up with that sub 1% wipe, and it just sucks. Potentially tens of thousands of damage being lost to RNG. I mean, that's those stats. That's not just big damage skills. That's across the whole fight. I've had entire encounters that are won by critical hit rate alone. I remember one time we were doing parse runs, and I direct crit every technical step on Dancer. I direct hit crit every single one of them. And my dance partner died, got damage downs, and I still got an orange parse because of RNG. Now, the more consistent way would have been to him have survived, and then I get, an average of some direct hits here, some crits there, and whatever, and then it just kind of works out. But that's just fights, man. That's just how it is. And yeah, those big abilities are the greatest outliers in terms of parses, but I'm not going to lie. If you're wiping sub 1% because of crit RNG, it's either a weak 1 clear and the crit RNG is really bad, and even then, not going to lie, probably was just people being too nervous doing mechanics to not do their rotations properly. So that's the way I always feel about worrying about direct hit crit RNG. Yeah, it can be noticeable, but quite frankly, I don't like to see it as an excuse for getting a wipe. Yeah, if it would have been the difference, like if you think, oh, we wiped at 0.2%, those 2 people died, but I missed. But if I had gotten that crit technical, it's like, no, those 2 people died. Those 2 people are the reason that wipe happened, not the direct hit crit technical that didn't happen. So that's just to clear the air on that. As for the relationship to higher potency skills going forward, I don't think they're ever going to change it because it's too satisfying when it does happen to warrant that very, very specific fringe case that you've just mentioned. So I don't see any reason for them to change it, even though I do think that specifically critical hit rate is problematic in that it is an exponentially scaling stat. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hi, are you doing aight? I'm doing aight. I'm glad you're doing aight. I'm also doing aight. I have 2 questions today. Okay. Since I started leveling Miner and Armorer for crafting and gathering, what is your opinion on the fastest and or most non-repetitive way to bring these classes all the way to max level? I'm gonna blow your mind right now. There is no non-repetitive way to level what is essentially the 2 most repetitive things in the game: gathering and crafting. So you have Ishgard. That's most people's recommendation nowadays. You gather the materials yourself if you can, and then you craft with them yourself. You try to be self-sufficient so you don't spend too much money. But even if you do have to spend money, it's not so bad. There's leave quests, there's Grand Company turn-ins, there's Beast Tribe dailies. If you just want to level day by day and just do a couple different activities, that's the closest thing you're going to get to a non-repetitive cycle, is by mixing and matching those activities. Maybe even throw in a bit of Ishgard here and there if you're feeling like you want to put a bit more time. But that's it. You won't be going fast, but you won't be going slow either. Quite frankly, those things will still level you pretty quick. Also, custom deliveries as well. That's another one. Yeah, so any of those like daily or weekly turn-ins for crafting and gathering, that's the only thing that'll break up the monotony. As for the second question, with Endwalker on the horizon, what are the best, coolest, prettiest things you can get in the Shadowbringers expansion? Not sure I know how to answer that because you're asking me, the guy who doesn't care about glamour, things that are pretty. It doesn't look so great when I answer that question, especially because I'm colorblind. So I don't know. Just whatever looks cool to you. I can't define for you what's cool or best or whatever. It's not like it matters. In terms of effectiveness, Endwalker, all the gear is going to be better. So it's whatever looks coolest to you. I don't know what looks coolest to me. Ain't going to look coolest to you. I ain't finna answer this question. Hashtag Mrhappy Mondays. What's good, Haps? Hope you're doing well. I have a question for you on Endwalker Endgame Prep. Sure. Hello, and I hope you're doing well as well. What's a good way to practice and prepare for week 1 hardcore prog? I'm not going to be world racing, but the idea of taking a week off to go hard at the tier at the beginning sounds like a ton of fun. I blind prog a lot of EX and E9. By the time my group got to E10 through E12, strats were already established. We had the benefit of Emerald and some tome pieces. So honestly, everyone in the group needs to agree to it. That's honestly the most important thing. If anyone in the group is like, I kind of don't want to do this, like even if they're still like, yeah, I'm going to do it, but I'm not like crazy about the idea, they are a liability. I hate to say it, but they need to go. Because when it is mentally taxing, it is super mentally taxing to do hardcore prog week 1, especially if you're a group that can't actually finish the tier in that first week. If you can, great, you'll feel a lot better about yourself and the group will probably not burn out. But if you go into Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and you're doing this hardcore week 1 prog and you still haven't cleared it, anyone who is even remotely unsure is going to become a liability very, very quickly. They can become a liability by the end of the second day because their mind's not in it. They just don't care. They just want to get through it. It doesn't matter to them anymore. They wouldn't care if you just quit, to be honest. It wouldn't matter to them. That is number 1. Number 2, raid together for a while first and do some stupid hours. Raid at 3 in the morning when the servers would normally come up during a patch. Do a 10-hour raid day with everyone to see how they handle it. And do something that people haven't progged before. Do an ultimate. Do an old savage tier, but do it mid-item level or do it with like accessories taken off or any of those things. You have to practice in some scenario that replicates what people will be experiencing on week 1. If they are not prepared to do that, then it's a gamble from that point on whether or not the group can actually handle that sort of commitment, I suppose. That's definitely the biggest thing, though. Those making sure everyone's like-minded and actually practicing under those conditions prior to it coming out is your best bet. All right, hashtag Mrhappy Mondays. Here is my actual hello and a pocket hello you can say when someone doesn't say hello. You know what? That's 3. I got 2 pocket hellos. Thank you and hello. I saved ocean fishing for a rainy day after grinding for my master caster title. I was wondering how hard it is to get the high score achievements for the mount and the title. I've heard so many different things that's actually confused me about it. It's just as simple as be there when it leaves and pray to Orange Jesus. That's definitely a major part of it. I mean, if you don't get a spectral or you don't get 2 or 3 spectrals, you're not going to get it. That's the bottom line. But there is also looking at the routes that are available and determining whether or not you can actually get it on that route, what the possibilities are of getting it, what your routes are to getting it, what fish you need to hook up, how you're going to actually go about getting the missions done for the bonus. I will say that getting 10,000 points for the mount is easy now. I almost get 10,000 points every boat at this point. As practice as I am at it, I still don't think it's that bad. I struggled for, at least 3-4 days when it first came out to even get a single one that was over 10,000. And now I'm, 13,000, 17,000, 19,000. I've gotten over 20,000 like 4 times. But the over 20,000 one is massive RNG. So you can get the over 10,000 one pretty easy, but that one's literally going to be great double hooks, a lot of high quality dolphin occurrences, it's going to be all sorts of things that factor in. So decent skill level related for number 1 and then skill and luck for number 2. All right, and this week was way short. A lot of people commenting on the last few weeks and the remaining questions. I mean, I'm going to lightning around them kind of here, but I didn't really know how to approach some of the remaining questions. There was somebody who was asking about like, if people passed away, if there was a way to make it so that like their characters could randomly appear in instanced ways throughout the game. That's incredibly difficult. The technical thing to do that for people, you need an application process for it. Like straight up, somebody needs to apply to have their character implemented because they're not going to be tracking people's actual, the passing of actual players. Like it's not going to happen. It's an unrealistic thing to expect. The best thing, honestly, is, like you've mentioned, is to build vigils. If there's a player who you used to play with who has passed and you want to honor them in some way, there's almost no way the dev team would be able to incorporate the instanced appearance of characters like Omega and Alpha in specific zones randomly, or like Etta or anything like that. It's way too big of a technical ask, and the selection process is a lot more manpower than should be needed for something like that. There's comments on like Ring Glamour, the animation for Dancing Edge. What was it? There's a few other ones in here that I definitely saw and went, I think I'll just save that for the end. A lot of people talking about the vaccine shot. Less than 2 weeks for me now until I get mine. Would you ever see Geomancer, Runefencer coming to fruition? Runefencer more so. Geo, they've had years. Geo's in the lore. I mean, we know it's very similar to Kandri. It's basically the Eastern equivalent of Kandri, and it also has a little bit of astrologian philosophies mixed in. And we've seen a great example of it in Swallow's Compass, but they've had years to add it, and the fact that they haven't while we've had them present in the lore and in the game really dissuades me from thinking that if it does happen, it'll happen anytime soon. So that one's a big... That one's always going to be there. Runefencer, little bit weird. Obviously, you're referring to these more from Final Fantasy XI, I feel, than maybe from the older Final Fantasy games. And that, I mean, it depends. If people want it as a tank, it's not going to happen for a while. At least one more expansion, you know? And by then, will you even care? Yeah, I mean, the possibility is always there, but the way that it accesses its power is probably not going to be like it is in pretty much any other game in the series. So it just depends on how you want to take that and how important having it is over having what would be the most logical implementation of it is. So that's trying to look too much into the future, and I don't think I could ever do that. Do you think the summoner 150-minute rotation death problem, which I've been told by a lot of experienced summoners is really not as much of an issue as it used to be. The changes over the years have apparently made that much less problematic, even though it's still present, but it's far less problematic than it used to be. I don't know what they'll do for that. I don't even want to comment on it, quite frankly, but I'm acknowledging that I see the question. I don't know. Personally, I think it'd be cooler if Summoner moved, entirely into using summons for all of its attacks. Instead of, having the pet kind of chilling and giving it an action here or there when you need to move, or then summoning Bahamut every minute or Phoenix every 2 minutes. And I think parts of those are cool, but I like to see it dive in fully into all of my attacks are based on my summons. That's quite frankly the only thing that really matters to me. They've shifted further and further away from this Warlock, the master is the power and the pet is supplementary. They've moved further and further. I want to see them take the full dive, quite frankly. We have a Fantasia to another race now. My girlfriend made my character, my main character that I currently use. So that stays. That doesn't get changed. I did give it the mutton chops, though. She did everything else. I give it the mutton chops. So what else was there? If I should try to get into more Savage Extreme content, I think we actually had a question like this last week where it was like, people think you shouldn't even ask. Just do it. You'll know whether or not it's for you. And maybe you get dissuaded once or twice. But I mean, it's down to willpower. It's down to how much you want to do something. That's the only thing that's going to stop you from doing most anything that is just, experience it in life or in a game or whatever. You're always going to be the one stopping yourself. It's true in most things. So just dive in and try. I can't tell you, I don't know you as a person. I know that me reading this question, you think would give me any sort of insight that would make me able to make an educate. No, that's not the same as knowing a person. And you really have to know a person to be able to say, no, just don't even bother. Or, yeah, absolutely. So the advice is to just do it, because nobody knows you better than you. And if you don't like doing it when you're doing it, you go, okay, then I don't like doing it, and you stop doing it. But if this is really cool, I want to keep going, then you keep going. That's it. You just got to do it. Nobody can do it but you. You got to be the one to do it. Somebody had an idea about PvP. And I saw the words, how do you feel about a big PvP zone? No. Large-scale PvP is awful. I hate to be the bearer of bad news. I fucking hate large-scale PvP. I think it's fine when it's one of the options. Almost every PvP mode that we've had in Final Fantasy XIV is large-scale, except for the Feast, which I enjoy, but I still don't do it because I don't want to only partake in... I like to be able to switch things up here and again. And... not really much of an option there. I don't like any of the PvP modes we have except Feast. And even Feast I'm not a huge fan of. It's just okay to me. And then the queue times kill it, so then I don't even want to bother. So there's really no winning. I don't want any more fucking large-scale PvP modes. I don't care if they're zones that are persistent, like Guild Wars World versus World versus World. I don't care if they're new modes themselves like the ones we have right now. I'm sick of 48 to 72 man PvP maps. Just do something simple. It's okay to have those, but they shouldn't be the only thing because you're afraid of people bitching that, I did bad on my team and somebody said bad things about me. You ban everyone for all the reasons anyway. Who gives a shit? No one's going to be brave enough to open their mouths. Just make an 8v8 mode or something like that. We had it with Feast even, or 16v16. Something smaller than what we have now. Okay? So I don't, and especially no logos or lost actions in there. Hell no. No. The whole point of PvP right now is to simplify it so that way you can focus on the situation you're in, and you had a lost action in there, bro. If I see a warrior walking towards me with inner release, I'm like, I'm dead. Lost slash, I'm dead. That's all there is to it. Anyway. Next one was, what do you have a guess on what the new gold saucer attraction will be? I'm always afraid it's going to be Blitzball. Please don't be Blitzball. They said it was going to be something on Mahjong level, didn't they? Yeah, I don't know. I don't care. Really? I don't care. It's like it's snowboarding or Blitzball or something like that. I don't. Just give me MGP. I don't care. I'll either like it or I won't. I don't even do the fashion report every week. It's like, just, I don't know. I don't care enough to answer the question, I guess, so I don't have any good insight. Somebody said they were holding on to all the Alec pieces they've collected since Stormblood, and they're like, what do I do with them? I'm like, fucking sell them, bro. You're sitting on cash. Just fucking sell those things. What are you talking about? There was somebody who was asking I think they designed the Nier raid so that people could play Replicant before seeing the end of it in 14. No, I think they just wanted to stretch it out 6 weeks. Because they needed to do something that was like different for Nier, because that's like a Yokotaro thing. Where it's, it's like, it's like, this is the end, but it's not really the end, and there's 5 endings now. And I think this is the closest equivalent we're going to see to that, are these weekly quests that actually finish the story. They play, here's a mystery, like what's happening with this person, why are these people doing this all of a sudden? And then it's just drip feeding you a minorly suspenseful experience that hopefully ends in something that is satisfying. And I'm holding out hope for that 6th week. I got to wait for this. That's what I keep telling myself. I got to wait. You got to wait. You gotta wait. I can't rip into it. You gotta wait. You gotta wait. You gotta wait. It's not done yet. I can't judge it. Gotta wait. Gotta wait. Somebody asked what my thoughts on Outriders were. It was fun. I didn't really like the way the devs were messing around with the power so much afterwards. Some of them were bug fixes. Some of them seem to be legitimately you're beating our game too quickly kind of changes. And considering it's not a game as a service, it shouldn't... Fixing things that don't work should matter more than trying to what felt like quarter in people who are playing or getting too far ahead. It's a big looter problem in general, where looters always like the first people in, find exploits, they get a ton of gear, and the devs don't want to ban them because they're the most hardcore supporters, but then they know they can't leave it like that because that's all anyone's going to do, so they have to try to balance it, and then they nerf this, and they try to buff something else. And they did like half of that, and then people started complaining, so some things ended up staying the same, and some things still ended up getting nerfed, and it was all over the place. So the devs had just a really rough time approaching it. On top of that, trying to deal with inventory wipes and all sorts of bugs and disconnect issues and not being able to play cross-platform, even though that was one of the selling points of the game. It was unfortunate because I think the whole package in an ideal world is good. And I would like to see them continue to develop it in the future. It was shaky. It was still shaky. But I had a lot of fun with it. I don't regret playing it. And maybe we revisit it in the future once more things are ironed out. After seeing all the weapons in Warlord, how intimidated are you for the fights in 7 Remake? Intimidated? I beat them over 2 decades ago. That doesn't matter how they look in 14 or in 7 Remake. I'm going to beat their ass. I'm going to do the same thing I did. I'm going to beat their ass. That's it. That's all I'm going to do. Let's see. And I think the rest of them, there's a bunch of comments here about different stuff, but I don't think there's any more questions, and that would be correct. One thing I want to shout out, one of my friends from I grew up with commented, so last week I was commenting on how growing up I was exposed to all sorts of cultures of food. And one of my friends whose house I used to go to, and his family was Bengali specifically, so some of the amazing desserts. But I remember going there and we'd eat most of our dishes with our hands, so I had to learn how to do the proper method, because like I just looked like an animal just trying to grab it with like this claw grip, trying to just grab rice like this. I had to learn all that. And he tries to stay in touch with me. I mean, this is a big tangent, but since this was a short video, and since you saw the last one, I'm assuming you'll see this. I am, how would I describe this? I'm one of the worst friends you could have. Because I've mentioned it in previous weeks, I have this like weird social anxiety where even if I know somebody, I'm still like, oh, they're fine. They don't want to hear from me. But even if they reach out to me and I'm like, and I'm like, I don't know. It's weird. I'm a really, really hard person to stay in touch with, strictly because of that. And he's tried to stay in touch with me. We hung out on Discord like during the pandemic at one point with some of our other friends, and I can't. I'm not consistent enough. I get this like my heart starts beating fast, and I'm just like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. So That's him seeing him there and commenting and realizing that's really our first interaction in quite some time. Despite the fact that he has tried to stay in touch with me is, that's a reminder for me about how bad I am at that. And it's something I should improve on, and I have tried, and it always falls apart. So wanted to add that fun little tidbit in there in the end, because that's always fun to end that on. Nah, it's fine. So anyway, that's going to be a wrap for this week's episode of Mondays with Mr. Happy. Be sure to like, favorite, subscribe, and share. And if you have a question for next week, throw in the comment section of the video below. Hey, at that point, by the time you see this episode, we're less than 2 weeks away, or 12, we're 11 days away by the time you guys see this episode. By the time you see the next episode, we'll be 4 days away. Yeah, from FanFest, and videos, and podcasts, and thoughts, and opinions, and loud yelling, and the moon. So with that, I'll see you for the next video. Enjoy your week, your day, whatever. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.